Good afternoon, everyone. My presentation today is Navigating Inequality in Global Academia, Gender Challenges and Transformations in Higher Education. So, in an increasingly interconnected yet deeply unequal world, global scholars face intensified challenges. While international academic mobility and cross-border collaboration are expanding, access to these opportunities remain uneven. Gender inequality persists both in overt and subtle forms, especially within higher education. This is not just true in the Middle East or Turkey, my case studies. It holds also true in the United States as well, where women in academia continue to navigate institutional barriers, gendered labor expectations, and exclusion from leadership roles and positions. So my presentation today draws on recent social science research, interviews with women academics and NGO actors, and large-scale data sets such as the Arab Barometer. I also integrate US-based findings to better understand that shared and divergent patterns of inequality in global academia. So let me start with the globalization of higher education and how it meets gender inequality. So academia is more globalized than ever, but globalization has not translated into equality. While women now continue to constitute the majority of undergraduate and graduate students globally, they remain underrepresented in senior academic and leadership positions. In Turkey, institutional inertia and patriarchal norms restrict women's leadership in academia. In the Gulf region, in the Middle East, nationalization policies and religious expectations mostly add layers of complexity. But this is also true in the United States when we look at it. A 2023 recent report by the American Association of University Women found that while women earn more than half of all doctorates, they hold only 32% of full professorships. In elite US research universities, fewer than 20% of department chairs are women. So, despite formal inclusion, informal gatekeeping persists globally, from Istanbul to San Francisco. So, when we look at the live experiences of women scholars, I can tell you this, I identify several recurring patterns when I look at the interviews with women scholars in Turkey and Gulf region. Very importantly, women are often excluded from networks of power despite credentials and productivity. Their work in gender studies, education, in psychology, in sociology is often marginalized or dismissed as too political. In the United States, the backlash is subtler but very real. Female academics report being overburdened with invisible labor, mentoring, committee work, emotional support, tasks that are essential but unrewarded in tenure and promotion process. A 2023 Chronicle of Higher Education survey showed that women, especially women of color, are more likely to experience workforce hostility and burnout. So the tension between representation and recognition defines the academic experience for many women, whether in Ankara or California. So my research uses sort of mixed methods approach, combining qualitative interviews as well as quantitative data. And the findings from the Arab Barometer, the large data set, confirmed that women in MENA region in the Middle East, the countries perceive lower institutional support, less academic freedom, and fewer leadership pathways. But let's look at the US again. So the women faculty at public universities in the United States earn on average $14,000 less per year than their male counterparts, even when controlling for rank and field as well. And also recent data from Harvard University shows that women receive smaller startup packages for lab-based research than men, affecting long-term grant competitiveness for them as well. And the theories of symbolic violence, Bourdieu and hegemony, Gramsci, help us to some extent unpack how these gender inequalities are normalized even in liberal academic institutions that promote diversity. When we talk about those inequalities, we also need to mention about parenthood penalties, important concept, and also digital inequalities. So today, motherhood remains a major structural barrier based on my research. In the Gulf region and Turkey, women academics describe how childcare expectations force them to delay or interrupt their careers. Many institutions provide no informal maternity policies, or worse, penalize those who use them. In the US, the situation is getting maybe better, but far from perfect for sure. Research by the National Bureau of Economic Research shows that female faculty who become mothers experience a significant drop in publication output, while their male peers often increase theirs. And even policies like tenure clock extension, while well-intentioned, often benefit men much more than women. And now, with the digital shift in academia, a new inequality has also emerged. In Turkey and the United States alike, online teaching, often feminized, poorly compensated, and precarious, is disproportionately done by women. In the US, contingent and adjunct instructors, two-thirds of whom are women mostly, bear the brunt of this digital transformation. So that's highly related to existing inequalities between men and women within the academia at the global scale. Around the world, also a growing wave of right-wing populism and anti-gender ideology. You better know from the current Trump administration now that threatens academic freedoms, especially in gender-related research. Similarly, in my country, in Turkey, feminist scholars face surveillance, censorship, and institutional intimidation. And in the United States, it seems like the things are also shifting. Several states have passed or proposed legislation to defund gender studies departments or ban the teaching of critical gender theory. University diversity offices are being dismantled in states like Florida or Texas under the pretense of protecting academic neutrality. Those attacks are wrapped in nationalism and framed as anti-wokeness, but the effect is clear, silencing gender scholarship and undermining equity. So despite all these, women academics are not just enduring, they are resisting. In Turkey and the Gulf region, women are creating informal networks, joining NGOs, and launching some sort of digital campaigns for gender justice. In the United States, feminist faculty are building supportive writing groups and mentorship circles. They are using Twitter to bypass traditional gatekeepers. They are forming inter-institutional coalitions to demand equity in hiring, funding, and evaluation, the whole process. Digital feminism, digital feminist activism, and transnational collaboration offer hope. These are the tools that allow women to circumvent structural constraints and build solidarities across the borders. So this year, our Pi Beta Delta conference theme also very important, navigating new realities, supporting global scholars in a changing world. That asks an essential question: how do we support scholars in the margins, mostly? So we must move beyond mobility scholarships and academic partnerships. So that support requires gender-sensitive institutional reforms from hiring to promotion. That support also requires cross-regional research collaborations that decentralize Euro-American models. And that support also requires student-centered initiatives that engage the next generation in rethinking equity. And very importantly, that support also requires naming and challenging how inequalities shows up in everyday academic life in Turkey, in Gulf region, and in the United States alike. So all around the world. And to conclude, very importantly, global academia is not immune to the inequalities of the world. It mirrors and magnifies them. But by interrogating the intersections of gender, globalization, and academic power, we can move toward more inclusive future. Let us rethink what it means to support global scholars, not just with visas or fellowships, but with justice, dignity, and institutional change. Altogether, I think we can do it. Thank you so much for listening.